Your phone, your car, the global economy, even national defense. They all run on something you can't even see. A tiny, mind-bogglingly complex piece of silicon that's become the most critical and contested resource on the planet. For decades, America outsourced its control over this resource, creating a massive vulnerability right at the heart of its power. Now, a high-stakes global fight has erupted, with the US making an aggressive, multi-hundred-billion-dollar bet to reclaim its dominance. This isn't just about business or bringing jobs home. This is the front line of a new, undeclared war, a tech war with Asia for control over the 21st century. And the first shots have definitely been fired. This is the story of a huge American breakthrough, and a profound warning for all of us. So, how did we get here? You have to understand a fundamental, almost terrifying truth about our world. It runs on semiconductors. And for the last 30 years, America has been willingly giving away the keys to the kingdom. Back in 1990, the United States was the undisputed king of chip manufacturing, pumping out 37% of the world's supply. But a relentless drive for cheaper production sent that manufacturing base overseas, mostly to Asia. Fast forward to 2022, and the US share of global production had cratered to just 10%. Even worse, when it comes to the most advanced, cutting-edge chips, the kind that power AI, our top-tier military systems, and supercomputers, America's domestic production had virtually disappeared. The entire global supply chain became this delicate, intricate web, with its most vital organ located in one specific place, Taiwan. The island, through its champion company TSMC, basically became the world's microchip factory, manufacturing a wild percentage of the planet's most advanced semiconductors. Different reports have slightly different numbers, but the reality is the same. Taiwan and South Korea together produce over 80% of the world's most advanced chips. And just like that, the entire global economy and US national security became totally dependent on a steady flow of chips from a region simmering with geopolitical tension. Think of it like this. The US designed a world-class engine, but it handed the keys to the only factory that could build it to someone else on the other side of the planet. For a long time, it was a pretty sweet deal. It was efficient. It was profitable. But then, the world changed. The pandemic hit, supply chains snapped, and car makers suddenly couldn't get the simple chips they needed, grinding production lines to a halt. That was the wake-up call. But an even bigger threat was looming, one that made a logistics headache look like a minor inconvenience. Before we get to the fireworks, it's worth asking, what even is a semiconductor, and why is making one so ridiculously hard? A chip is the brain in every electronic device you own. It's a dense network of billions of microscopic switches called transistors, etched onto a wafer of pure silicon. These little switches control the flow of electricity, doing the math that makes our digital lives possible. And when I say microscopic, the scale is genuinely hard to wrap your head around. The transistors in today's best chips are measured in nanometers. A single nanometer is 1/1,000,000th of a meter. For perspective, a human hair is about 80,000 nanometers wide. We're talking about building structures that are smaller than a virus. The process itself is one of the most complex manufacturing challenges humanity has ever tackled. It happens in hyper-sterile clean rooms called fabs. A single fab can cost over $20 billion to build. Inside, hundreds of multi-million-dollar machines perform a delicate, months-long ballet of over 1,000 steps. Depositing layers of materials, using extreme ultraviolet light to etch patterns, then baking, cleaning, and polishing everything with obsessive precision. The tiniest speck of dust or the slightest vibration can ruin an entire batch of chips worth millions. The expertise required is staggering, built up over decades. It isn't just about buying the machines, it's about having thousands of engineers who know how to run them, tweak them, and keep them in perfect sync. You can't just build a fab overnight. It's a living ecosystem of machinery, materials, and human knowledge. And for the past few decades, the heart of that ecosystem has been in Asia. So, what's with the sudden panic? Why is this a full-blown crisis now? The answer comes down to the ambitions of another superpower, China. For years, China has been the world's biggest customer for semiconductors, but it has always depended on foreign tech. Beijing saw this as a strategic weakness it had to fix. In 2015, it launched its master plan, Made in China 2025. The goal was bold: become 70% self-sufficient in key technologies, with semiconductors right at the top of the list. Beijing started pouring hundreds of billions into its own chip industry, trying to build national champions and close the technology gap. While its goal of 70% self-sufficiency by 2025 has fallen short, its progress is undeniable, with some estimates putting domestic production around 50% by early 2025. This wasn't just about economics. It was a geopolitical statement. China was openly challenging America's tech supremacy. This ambition became truly frightening when paired with China's rapid military buildup and its increasingly aggressive stance toward Taiwan. Suddenly, America's reliance on Taiwanese chips wasn't just an economic issue. It was a catastrophic security risk. What happens if Beijing blockades or invades the island? The flow of advanced chips stops. Instantly. The global economy craters. The US military loses access to components for its most advanced weapons. It was a scenario that went from unlikely to unthinkable. The US government decided it had to act. It started by using its most powerful weapon, sanctions. The first major target was the Chinese tech giant Huawei. By cutting off Huawei's access to American-designed chips and the tools needed to make them, the US showed the immense power it still held over the supply chain. It was a devastating blow to the company, but it was also a warning shot that echoed through Beijing. The message was crystal clear. We see your ambition as a threat, and we can shut it down. But this move backfired in a way. It only made China more determined to become independent, causing it to double down and pour even more money into its domestic industry. The conflict was heating up. The pandemic showed the system was fragile, and China's rise showed it was strategically dangerous. America had been asleep at the wheel, and it was finally waking up. This is a defining moment in our time, and understanding these power shifts is more important than ever. If you're getting value from this breakdown, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world. It really helps us make more content like this. Facing this perfect storm of threats, the United States made a huge decision. It decided to fight back not just with sanctions, but with cash. A lot of cash. In 2022, Congress passed the CHIPS and Science Act, a game-changing law that signals a complete reversal of American industrial policy. The act earmarks over $52 billion in grants and subsidies, plus a hefty 25% investment tax credit, to convince companies to build semiconductor fabs on American soil. This wasn't just another stimulus package. It was America planting its flag and telling the world it was back in the manufacturing game. The goal is nothing less than to reverse decades of decline and rebuild an entire domestic industry. The CHIPS Act is projected to help triple U.S. chip-making capacity by 2032. And guess what? The money worked. It triggered a tsunami of private investment. Suddenly, companies from all over the world were announcing massive new projects in the U.S. Total investment commitments have rocketed past $500 billion, with over 100 new projects planned across 28 states. Taiwan's TSMC, the undisputed world leader, announced it was building multiple advanced fabs in Arizona, a project now valued at a staggering $65 billion. Intel, America's homegrown hero, unveiled its own $100 billion plan to expand in states like Arizona, Ohio, and New Mexico. Samsung is putting up a massive new plant in Texas. These projects are set to create tens of thousands of high-paying jobs. For the first time in a generation, the world's most advanced chip factories were being built in America again. It was a massive breakthrough. The investment is real. The comeback has begun. The US is now on track to grow its share of global chip manufacturing from a low of 10% to 14% by 2032, finally reversing that long, painful decline. It's a huge first step in securing America's tech future. But this is where the simple, happy story ends, and the messy reality kicks in. This is the big warning. Because building a factory is one thing, running it is another thing entirely. And the flagship project, TSMC's giant plant in Arizona, has become a perfect case study in just how hard it is to bring this industry home. The project has been hit with delay after delay. The start of production at its first fab, originally set for 2024, got pushed to 2025. The second fab's timeline was pushed back to 2028. Why? A whole mess of reasons. Regulatory hurdles and permitting took twice as long as they would in Taiwan. But the biggest roadblock has been a shortage of skilled workers. There simply aren't enough American workers with the hyper-specialized skills needed to install and fine-tune the advanced equipment a fab requires. This forced TSMC to fly in technicians from Taiwan to train local staff, which in turn created friction with local unions. Reports have surfaced of culture clashes between TSMC's demanding, high-pressure work environment and American labor expectations. It all points to a difficult truth. You can't just transplant a factory. You have to transplant an entire ecosystem, a deep pool of talent, a network of hundreds of specialty suppliers, and decades of institutional knowledge. That ecosystem doesn't exist in the US anymore, and rebuilding it will take years, maybe decades. It's incredibly expensive and full of pitfalls. The US government can write the checks, but it can't just will a skilled workforce into existence. While the US is struggling with the enormous task of rebuilding its industrial base, the fight with China is entering a new, more direct phase. This is no longer just economic competition. It's a full-blown tech war. The US has tightened its export controls, trying to block China's access to the most advanced AI chips and the equipment used to make them. The strategy is what they call a large yard, low fence, selectively choking off China's ability to develop next-gen military and surveillance tech. Companies like NVIDIA, the leader in AI chips, are caught in the middle, forced to design less powerful chips just for the Chinese market to stay on the right side of US rules. China, for its part, is not taking this lying down. It has launched its own investigations into US firms and has started to restrict exports of critical minerals like gallium and germanium, which are vital for making semiconductors. This is direct retaliation, a clear signal that Beijing has cards to play too. This tit-for-tat escalation is fracturing the global tech world. We're watching two rival tech ecosystems emerge, one led by the US and its allies, and another centered around China. For American companies, this is a huge gamble. China is the biggest market for semiconductors in the world. Being cut off from it could wreck their revenues, shrinking the very funds they need for R&D to stay ahead. We've seen a version of this movie before. In the 1980s, the US was in a fierce semiconductor rivalry with Japan. It used aggressive trade policies to protect its industry and eventually clawed its way back to the top. But this conflict is different. China is a much bigger, more determined rival than Japan ever was. It sees tech independence as a matter of national survival and is using the full power of its state to achieve it. The battle lines are being drawn for a long, expensive, and unpredictable fight. So, the US has finally woken up to a critical danger and is making a historic, costly bet to fix it. The CHIPS Act is a genuine breakthrough, a powerful move to reverse a dangerous trend and bring a vital industry home. But it's also a huge warning. This isn't a victory lap. The road to reshoring is proving to be way harder, more expensive, and more complex than anyone thought. The struggles at the TSMC plant in Arizona are a reality check that money alone can't solve this problem. At the same time, the aggressive strategy to hobble China's tech sector is accelerating a global split. This new tech war threatens to disrupt supply chains, raise costs for all of us, and maybe even slow down the pace of innovation itself. There might not be a clear winner here. We could be heading into a more fractured, less efficient, and more dangerous world, split into competing tech blocks. The battle for the future is being fought on a microscopic landscape of silicon. It's a conflict that will define our century, deciding not just who builds the best gadgets, but who holds the balance of global power. The question is, what's the real price of security? Is all this a necessary cost to protect our future, or the opening shot of a new kind of Cold War that everyone, everywhere, will end up paying for? So what do you think? Smart move for America, or just the start of a tech war with no winners? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive analysis.